And I think that the more that we're able to love ourselves, not in a narcissistic way as much as like, I just genuinely love who I am and the way I show up in the world, the way I show up for others, the more we're actually able to provide for other people.
83% of Americans identify as not very happy, which can hold you back and negatively affect your relationships and your business. On this podcast, we discuss the proven steps to happiness so you can restore balance and rekindle your joy.
Welcome to another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. Hope you're having an amazing day. I sure am. Today's guest is Jesi Stracham. Thank you so much for being here. You guys do not want to miss this. She is going to impart some incredible wisdom. She has quite a story. Jesi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Brad. I'm stoked to be here.
So tell us, you had a pretty major life event that changed the trajectory of...
Which one are we going to dive into, right?
What's the most impactful? I was going to go with the motorcycle accident.
Yeah, so I will start kind of pre-injury. I was living that 20-year-old reckless lifestyle, drinking and driving, partying every weekend, living my best life. And it put me in a position where I thought I was invincible. And I got on the back of a motorcycle with somebody, and we were getting off the exit, and a woman wasn't stopping, made a U-turn in front of us. The driver of the bike didn't stop. So we collided with the back passenger window of an SUV. He went through the vehicle, broke his leg. I went over the SUV, broke my back in two places. My chest collapsed, my ribs punctured my lungs, nicked my spinal cord. I have a traumatic brain injury, and I coded twice, having to be resuscitated. So I'm very blessed to be here. But after my paralysis and I got out of the hospital, I continued to live recklessly. I continued to be all over the place. It wasn't until really about 5 years into my injury, when I was a little bit into my personal development journey, my cousin committed suicide, and I felt jealousy that she was no longer in pain and struggling. And I was like, I shouldn't be feeling jealousy that somebody's life is over and that they're no longer here. And that was my wake up call and my aha moment of like, okay, something's got to change drastically so I can learn to be happy.
Wow. That is quite a story. So I read some of your bio and some of your stuff before the show, and it said something about a tumultuous childhood.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that like?
My parents owned a trucking company when I was a kid. On the weekends, I would work with my dad, fixing the trailers, changing tires on the trucks, doing all the things. I was essentially my dad's son. And I was spoiled rotten. I got to race off road. I traveled the country racing four-wheelers in the woods. My parents gave me everything I ever wanted, but my mom was an over-the-road truck driver. So it was very backwards, where my dad raised me and my mom was kind of absent. My parents are still together and everything. That was just the dynamic of their relationship. So I didn't have that mother figure all through my childhood. And so when I hit puberty, I started giving away my body freely, looking for attention and gratification. And that's when I found my first addiction, which was sex. And I was like, wow, at such a young age, I became an addict of sexual gratification. And so I gave my body away freely. At 15, I got pregnant and got an abortion. And that didn't impact me the way it should have. It should have been like, hey, there's consequences to your actions. There's consequences to what you do. And I just blipped right over that and ignored it and went right back to my reckless ways. So then when I turned 18, I continued to be reckless. And I don't know what the root cause was of it, but I knew that the decisions I were making weren't the right ones, yet I continued to make them. And I think, how often do people in general, like, oh, I got to do this laundry or I need to put this stuff away, even with the small things. And then instead they scroll TikTok or social media. And it's like, how often are we making decisions that we know aren't the correct decision, that are going to get us where we want to be, yet we continue to make them? And that's kind of the vicious cycle I was caught up in throughout my entire childhood, up until my paralysis and a little bit even after that.
Jesi, what if the reason that you did all those things was because your subconscious brain was saying that you needed those things to survive?
It could have been. I mean, I I more was one of those people who just look for instant gratification. I mean, we live in an instant world, right? And so I was like, ooh, if I can instantly be gratified, and I didn't think about the consequences emotionally afterwards.
How long was your mom a long haul truck driver? Like, at what age did that start?
Oh, she went right back over the road as soon as she was able after probably like 12, I was 12 weeks or 8 weeks, something like that. It's in my book. We just wrote about it. And so like, that's my mom's part of the story. You know what I mean?
So I'm only telling you this to shed insight on your life, and maybe not that you don't have compassion. And I have no idea if this is the case, but I'm just going to tell you, after working with 100 people and after looking at thousands of cases, that as a young child, when a parent, either the father or the mother, is absent from the child's life, the child doesn't have a logical brain. They're not at 2 years old saying, oh, it's great mommy's never here because she's out earning a living for us so I can eat. No, 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 no. The child internalizes everything and says, mommy's not here because there's something wrong with me. So your little brain, even at 13, 14, whatever, whenever you became sexually active and became addicted, could have been your subconscious brain saying, I need this love that I didn't get from my mom when she was always gone. So I'm going to keep doing it, because kids don't misbehave. They misbehave for one reason only. They lack a connection with a parent. And if your mom is gone all the time, it's not her fault. She was doing the best she could, right? No one's fault. It just something to think about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like I became a product of my circumstances, right? And I genuinely believe that played a massive part in it. I mean, when I started my period, I wanted to use tampons instead of pads, and I had to call my mom on the cell phone and ask, because my dad's like, "Well, I don't know about that. Like, you need to call your mom and ask her," rather than like my mom actually being present. But as long as I can remember, my mom was an over the road truck driver, and she just wasn't there because that's the way she knew
Yeah.
how to make a living.
Sure. And so when you look back at that little girl, what do you think and feel?
I'm so sad for her. I wish I could just tell her all the things of like, girl, it's going to be okay. I just recently got back from being in Paris for a partnership with Team USA for the Paralympics.
You go, girl. That's freaking awesome.
It was a blessing of an experience. I'm still having a hard time articulating the experience as a whole, but I will say, because I was alone, so I traveled alone to Europe. Um Language barriers, all the things, and I had to figure it out, right? And I had so much time to reflect, and I'm just like, wow. I'm gonna try not to get try not to cry right now, because I'm
No,
just
you
like,
cry all you want. That's great. It's healing.
if I could have told, 10-year ago Jesse, who was 6 months away from becoming a paraplegic, that she would be in Paris with a partnership with Team USA, representing the best country in the world, I wouldn't have believed it. And I'm like, wow, if I could have told 10-year-old Jesse that she would have been going to Paris to create social media content, which at the time social media wasn't even a thing, for the Paralympics and in partnership with Team USA, to give that little girl hope. And so when I wrote my book, that was the big thing, that the dedication is to younger version of Jesse. I wish I could have saved you, but I hope we can save someone like you. And that's really, when I wrote my book, that's why I wrote it, was to dive into every demon, from sleeping around to drinking at a young age, to drinking and driving and putting other people at risk, to having an abortion, to fighting off my faith, to getting into the accident, from snorting the pills when I did that. Like, I made so many poor decisions in my younger childhood that writing the book allowed me to own and forgive myself for. And I think that's the hardest thing, is we compartmentalize whatever bad decisions or less than ideal decisions that we make. We compartmentalize them and put them away rather than addressing them, accepting that we did that, and moving forward and learning, like, how am I not going to do this again?
Jesse, you made the best decision you could at the time, because you were a hurt little girl. And
Yeah. Yeah, but I want to save, I want to save I want to save that hurt little
well,
girl.
you
Like,
here's the thing, you can, because that little girl is still inside of you. And when you shut down to an intimate partner, or you feel anxious, or you feel sad, that's little Jessie inside of you. And guess what? You get to tell her today, for the rest of your life, it's okay. I've got you. You're safe now. So you can do that. Put your arms around yourself when you want to, look in the mirror and just have a conversation with that little girl, because she's still there. It's inside all of us. and you've done the work. Most people don't do the work, and the little child controls their life as an adult through addiction, depression, anxiety, overeating, you name it. It's this little kid trapped inside, because remember, our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between time. So it doesn't know that you're not that 6-year old girl that's longing for her mommy to be there when she's out, making a living for the family. So
I like
amazing.
that. I love that. I think the more the more we work on self, the more that you're able to do that, right? Because for a long time I avoided mirrors. I don't want to look at myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at that person and own who she is. And now I'm my favorite person in the entire world. I love me more than anyone. And I think that the more that we're able to love ourselves, not in a narcissistic way as much as like, I just genuinely love who I am and the way I show up in the world, the way I show up for others, the more we're actually able to provide for other people. So often we starve ourselves of that love, giving it away to everyone else before filling our own cup. And again, when I started my journey, that was one of the main things that I really focused on. Was like, I want to love who I am. I just really want to love myself because for so long I hated myself.
Yeah, it was a defense mechanism. So I have a shirt on right now that says "Be addicted to self love," and I have another shirt that says "Be your own best friend," and I have another shirt that says "No one can love you like you can," and that's the truth. And once you start loving yourself, everything in your life changes. You've seen that. So when you look back at that little girl, and everyone who's listening looks back at that little boy or little girl, know that whatever behavior you had, it was helping you survive a moment in your life, a time in your life where you needed something. So that filled what you needed. So I would just ask you, when you look back at, it sounds like you do, look back at little Jesi, just have compassion for her, knowing that she was always doing the best that she could do. And and your mom and dad, by the way, were doing the best they could do, given, because they probably had issues from their childhood. So anyway, this is phenomenal stuff. So let's dive more into this. You've got this Wheel With Me Foundation. You've got this incredible app. What drove you to establish these things?
So Wheel With Me Foundation was founded in 2016 or 17, late 16, early 17. And I raced off road for Polaris in a single seat side by side. And while I was racing, I had a sponsor who was a clothing company. And she's like, oh, let's create a shirt and we'll sell the shirt and the proceeds will go to a nonprofit of your choice. Well, I was looking for a nonprofit that solely served the independence of wheelchair users to help them go back to work and be independent, live on their own, those type of things. And there wasn't really anything out there. And so she said, why don't we start our own? And I'm like, okay. And so we called it Wheel With Me Foundation because we want people to wheel with us. We want you to come with us. It's not just wheelchair users over here just trying to make it in the world. Like, we need our non-disabled counterparts, allies, to help us to be able to get to where we want to go. And so that's where the nonprofit was founded. So we currently host quarterly empowerment weeks on Zoom where members of the community teach their skill or trade to other members of the community completely for free. We co-host a summer camp up in Carrabassett Valley, Maine every year for adult wheelchair users to go learn independence, try new sports, get camaraderie. And then we are working to build a transitional community to integrate wheelchair users back into independent society. And so in 2017, I also kept falling on the floor and I wasn't able to get myself back up. And I'd get so frustrated because the main thing that people ask, when are you going to walk again? When are you going to walk again? And I'm like, I just want to be able to get from the floor back in my wheelchair. Walking is the last thing on my brain right now. Like, I need to figure out how to live this life, how to manage my bowel and bladder. Not walking is the least of my worries as a wheelchair user. It's bowel and bladder control and figuring out just how to be independent. And so I get on YouTube and I record the 7-minute meltdown of me stuck on the floor in a hotel room, called it Frustrations of Paralysis. And it's me just venting about being paralyzed.
Wow.
And it got around 50,000 views. And when I saw how many views this video got, I was like, wow, if I put that much negativity and frustration out in the world, what happens if I put good in the world? And so I started my personal development journey. I started focusing on what I was consuming, what I was putting out. And with that came fitness. And so I created a private Facebook group at first. I had a friend who had an app for accessibility. And he's like, oh, it's too hard to create an app. And me taking someone else's word and limiting beliefs, I believed it. And I didn't create an app until 2021 when an app developer reached out and was like, there's no fitness app for wheelchair users. I want you to be the one to create it. And so Wheel with Me Fit was born, and then I later merged with another wheelchair user, so it's called Wheel with Me Adapt Fit now. So there's two of us that are wheelchair using personal trainers. I'm a nutrition coach. Nikki, my business partner, is a personal trainer. And we have a fitness app that's downloadable for wheelchair users to have actual programming to follow, workouts catered to them, mobility, bed workouts. So we really are continuously adding to it to try and make it a better resource for our community.
Amazing. So you've got an app, you've got a foundation, and you told me earlier you have like a facility where like a health and wellness facility.
Yeah, so I co-own a wellness facility in Lake Norman, North Carolina. It's called Freedom Longevity and Wellness. We have cold plunge, infrared sauna, red light therapy, compression sleeves, the Vibe X, and PEMF, which is pulse magnetic frequency, and then a hyperbaric chamber. And so we are an all-encompassing recovery facility where we're just serving our local community and helping people with their longevity of independence and wellness. We serve everything from athletes to the elderly.
Absolutely incredible. I had a wonderful experience a couple months ago with a cold plunge, and it was a hut outside a addiction, like a halfway house thing. My buddy knew of, and it was this hut that had steam, and underneath it had a cold plunge in the bottom. And it was the first time I went from 45 degrees to steam, and it was amazing. I loved it, and there's so many benefits. What were the two machines that you mentioned at the end, or the devices?
So PEMF is pulse magnetic frequency. I use a company called Pulse. I've been using PEMF for 4 years. It's really great because what it does is it opens up your cells and creates a cellular detox. So after using the device, you literally just sit on it. You can't be on any technology because it will wipe your phone because it's using magnetic frequency. So it's a forced no technology zone where you just sit on the mat in a chair and it just pulses. We also have little devices or attachments that can spot treat. So, say you're having shoulder issues, and it uses magnetic frequency to open up the cells, getting them nice and plump again, flushing out the toxins. So, I've noticed pain reduction, especially in neuropathy in my legs. Spasm reduction is another thing, and I just feel better. I have not sometimes after using it, I'm either super exhausted or super energized, depending on how often I've done it and how consistent I've been.
So I've been bugging my gym to get a cold plunge. How do you deal with people? I mean, a pool that has chlorine is one thing. How do you deal with a cold plunge where multiple people are using it and keeping it clean?
So we change the water and filters depending on how many people come through the facility daily. So we drain the tubs, clean them out, change the filters out. They're all double filtered tubs, which is really nice. Um, and so it's just a matter of maintaining it. There's three owners here, and including myself. And so whoever's working that day has the cleaning list, and we go through, check it off, and initial who did it last and move on. The other modality that you had asked about was the Vibex.
Uh-huh.
So it's the only vibration plate that vibrates in a circular pattern, resetting the central nervous system wholly. The biggest thing that a lot of people see is athletic improvement. So you could get on there and just keep on rep after rep after rep, and you don't fatigue out because your brain's not telling you you're tired. So it's very interesting. I personally started sitting on it. So again, I'm a paraplegic. I did not have full sensation or anything like that. I started sitting on it when we got it in February, and I regained full sensation of hot and cold in my legs, and now I feel touch, which I've been paralyzed almost 10 years. It shouldn't be happening, but this thing's resetting the central nervous system in a way that's allowing for miracles to come through.
I mean, I can't, I've never experienced that, but I can only imagine it's incredible. Like, what was it like when you could start to feel sensation in hot and cold?
It was very interesting because I got in the cold plunge and I have to put my feet in first and then kind of pull myself in. And as soon as my foot went in, I was like, oh my gosh, that's freezing. Wow. And I felt it immediately. And it was very interesting. I'm still, honestly, I'm in disbelief. My life is an entire movie. And I just feel really, really blessed that I get to experience life the way I've got to experience it.
Yeah, I think miracles happen every day in most people's lives, but unfortunately, because of the past pain and stuff, we mask them. But man, if you just look around, stuff on a daily basis, I laugh because stuff just happens for me every single day. I'll forget my keys and I'll go and find something else. I can't find find my glasses, but then my door doesn't open. So I go try to find my keys because my car won't lock. And there are like just little things like this is huge. I'm not trying to, but it doesn't matter, big or small. Miracles are happening every day all around us if we can just see them and believe that they're happening.
Have you read Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights?
I have not.
Okay, so he refers to when things go your way as green lights, and then when they don't, it's a red light, but it's not, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And that's really, I'm like, wow, there's so many green lights in life, even when there's a red light. Like, even when things don't feel like they're going your way, there's a reason for it. And you can, if you pay attention, you can hear it, you can see it. And it's like, oh, this is why it didn't work out this way. Like, I'm so grateful to be paralyzed. If you asked me that 10 years ago, I'd been like, you're crazy. But like, I feel so grateful. This is my life experience. And when you start expressing gratitude for the experience that you get to live in life, and then take responsibility for your actions. My actions landed me in a wheelchair. Now I had a choice. I could be miserable and be a victim of my reality, which I did. I did that for a solid year and a half. And guess what? Got tired of being miserable. And so I was like, all right, what's the other end of the spectrum look like? What if we're like, okay, shit happens. That's life. What am I going to do with it? And I decided to take it and live it to the absolute fullest. I made a choice. You are not a product of your environment. You are a product of your choices. And if you make better choices that are going to get you to where you want to be, you're going to be able to live the life you want to live. It might not look the way you picture it, but if you just accept what you're receiving fully and just be grateful that you're receiving to begin with, it actually is really fulfilling.
Preach it, girl. You're a freaking rock star. This is amazing stuff. Gosh, I'm so glad that we have the honor of having you on this podcast. So yeah, I love it. Like make lemonade out of lemons, right? So many people think things happen to them and it's bad. And oh my gosh, look at your situation. Like who would have thought that could have turned into something good, but you turned it into something good. So when you look at someone in a wheelchair, don't feel sorry for them. Jesi doesn't want you to feel sorry for her. She is blessed beyond belief, right? Because she took the worst thing that could almost imaginable. Maybe the second worst is death, right? She has endured the worst thing possible in a human being's life, and look what she's done with it. So look at what are your problems in life? They're probably not as big as Jesse's. So what can you do with your problems? And are your problems showing you a pathway to a better life, just like they did with Jesse? It's it's incredible stuff. So if you're listening to this and you are wondering if you have some of this stuff from your childhood that's like driving your behavior, not only as an 18-year-old, but as a 58-year-old, because it still does, do yourself a favor, do your family and your health and your business, if you own one, a favor. Go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz and see what your level of self-love is. If you lack self-love, I promise you, you weren't born with it. So that's an indication that something happened in your formative years that you're still holding on to as an adult. And I promise you, if you lack self-love, every single area of your life is affected to some degree.
100%. Well, I'm telling you, when I wrote my book and just unturned every stone that I felt like I had pushed down deep and that I just never addressed, I became free. The sooner you address your trauma and address, like, okay, this thing sucks and this is probably why I show up this way and this is why I am this way, the sooner you can just go out and start living and not allow that backpack full of just boulders hold you down. Because that's essentially what it is. You're carrying this backpack of
Yes.
trauma like it's a badge of honor. And it's like, yo, you don't have to carry that.
No. How do you define, you said, I feel free. How do you define that? What's freedom or being free to you?
There is no external circumstance that's going to impact my happiness at all. And reaching that level of being okay with self, being okay with the way that other people show up and not allowing that to dictate the way that you live. I think one of the biggest things that I've really implemented this year is, regardless of how anyone shows up in my life, I'm still going to show up with kindness. I'm still going to smile and I'm going to kill you with kindness, because just because you show up a certain way does not mean that I need to change my moral compass and my values to match your energy. Why would I lower myself to that frequency? I have no reason to do that when I can actually raise your frequency by just continuing to be kind. Like, oh, you want to be ugly? You want to be a certain way? That's fine. It's not going to impact me. That's freedom, is taking control of your own life.
Your definition of freedom is pretty much my definition, and that is no person or situation, which are external, right, can negatively affect me. There is just no reason that you ever have to be, unless you're being chased by a hardened criminal or a lion. You don't need to feel angry. You don't need to feel scared. No matter what's happening to you, if you say I'm feeling this way, it's just a reaction. It has nothing to do with the event. You're just placing meaning on that event. And man, I went through this major life transformation 3.5 years ago, and there was an ex-Navy SEAL who took me through it in 3 hours. Forever changed my life. And the night before, we were at dinner, and he's like, "Yeah, I want to get to a place in my life where no one can negatively impact me." And I looked at him. I didn't say this, but I was like, "This guy's crazy. Like, that's not possible." And here we are, 3.5 years later, Jesse. And of course, you and I'm sure you're not perfect either, but damned if I'm not really, really, really close to it. And if I do get triggered, it's seconds or minutes now that I can pull out of it. And why? Why are we able to do this, Jesse? Because we looked at our past and we realized that we were, just like you said, carrying these boulders that were weighing us down, and we threw off these boulders, and now we can be our authentic self without drugs, without alcohol, without sex. It's uh
100%.
it's a beautiful thing, and you can do it too. If you're
Yeah,
if you're in a bad situation, again, give me a worse situation than Jesse, where she can't walk, right? So whatever your situation is, know that you can raise the level 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, and you can make an impact. Because Jesse, you were put here, just like I was, and just like everyone listening to this was put here for a massive mission, and now you're living your massive mission.
100%.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Like, mic drop on that, because I think that the biggest thing is people like, well, I can't do that. Maybe you can do that, but I can't. And the reality was, I was people. I was that person that was like, oh, I'll never be able to live that life. And I used where I grew up and who raised me. And then I used my spinal cord injury, and I used the decisions I made. And it's like, when you let go of all of your excuses that you've used to validate your narrative, you let go of those, that's freedom. Because now it's like, okay, I'm owning everything, and I'm going to move forward from it. I'm going to become my best version of me. I'm going to do everything I can to live a happy life, and whatever happiness means to you. You don't have to go out and be a social media influencer. You don't have to go out and be a coach. But you do need to go out and just be the change you want to see in the world. That's the mission that I live by. I'm like, I get so frustrated with how our world is, but what is complaining about it going to do? Absolutely nothing. But if I pick up a piece of trash while I'm passing it, or I choose to be a kindness in someone's day and make somebody smile, I am living that mission of being the change I want to see in the world, because change genuinely starts with us. You can impact your circle, and then your circle goes out and impacts people that you don't have connection to. And then they go and impact more people, and it creates this amazing ripple effect to make the world better. So it genuinely starts with you. And then when you feel yourself getting triggered by other people, that intention, that's the biggest thing, is being intentional with your thoughts and saying, no, I'm not going to allow this. Why do I feel this way? I ask myself why all the time. My boyfriend is so funny. He's always like, literal Jesse is what he calls me, because I always need to know, okay, but why do you feel that way? Because I want to have a better understanding of the deeper root cause. And because when you understand that deeper root cause, you can address it, and then we can
Yes.
fix the problem and move on from it.
Yes. Yes. I created a tool called the Joy Regenerator that you can get on my website. And you basically just described it. When you feel a negative emotion, you're in fight or flight, not good, right? So you take a couple deep breaths, try to be present. You identify the emotion. I'm feeling sad, which gets you into your prefrontal thinking brain and out of your amygdala, your fight or flight. And then you say, it's okay. Remember, we talked about the little girl earlier? When Jesse feels scared, say it's okay, because it's not Jesse as an adult, it's a little girl. Then you ask yourself, where's this coming from? In my situation, every time I ever feel negative, it goes back to my old belief that I'm not enough. So I ask myself, is that true? Am I not enough? Because the thought always creates the emotion that creates the action. So am I enough? Of course I'm enough. So I sit there and I go, why am I going to be here mad or sad or angry based on a thought that's not even true? We live our lives like so much suffering is self-inflicted because we're living in the untruth. As a little girl, as a teenager, when you were doing these things that you said were the wrong decisions, you were doing the best you could. It wasn't your fault. Like you were just trying to survive. So anyway, as we wrap up, tell us about this book. Can we buy it? Like, what's the name of it?
It's called Power in the Role. Should be available early spring next year is the goal. We're currently in the final reads, was sent off to the publisher, so we're just waiting to hear back to kind of get the timeline. It will be available on my website when it comes out. Be sure to follow me on all socials. It's at Jesi Stracham. Looks like Stracham. It's like a straw you drink from, ham you eat. My socials are all under my name. And then I would love if you guys checked out my organizations. Freedom LKN is the wellness facility. If you want to build a wellness facility or you want to acquire these modalities like a cold plunge, saunas, we actually can help you get all of that. We have equipment packages, we have consulting packages. So that's something we offer. Wheel With Me Foundation, if you're looking for a nonprofit to support, we will gladly take as much help as we can get. And Wheel With Me Adapt Fit, if you have an elderly parent, grandparent that needs more fitness from a seated position, or if you have a friend that uses a wheelchair, have them download our app. It's in the iOS store, Google Play Store. We're literally here to just help people become their best.
Jesse, that was freaking unbelievable. I knew you were going to rock it, but that was actually more than I ever expected. You are a gift to this universe and this earth, and thank you so much for all you do. If I can ever be of assistance, I am a phone call away, and I look forward to following you on your journey because I know you're going to continue to touch and change so many lives.
Thank you so much for sharing your platform. And you guys, as the audience, if you gain value today, please share this with a friend. That's how podcasts grow. And that's how platforms grow, is by you sharing our content with your friends that made impact for you and can make impact for them. And go out and be the change that you want to see in the world. I'm no different than you. I'm not special. I just decided to start listening when God called.
I love it. I love it. Well, you took my message. I'm trying to help a million people, and the best way to do it is I need everyone's help. So, as Jesse said, please share this, rate it, review it, anything you can do to get this word out because there was some powerful messages shared today. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Brad. Have a great day.
That concludes another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. Until next time, remember, love heals all.
Hit subscribe if you don't want to miss out on more life-changing content. And if you're struggling, you don't have to. Go to bradchandler.com/contact. There, you can join the Facebook community of like-minded entrepreneurs, and you'll see a button to schedule your freedom and happiness call. See you on the next episode.